100%. Again, all these agencies that I just mentioned looked into it. There were people that they were led by people appointed by Donald Trump. So unless you think that Donald Trump is appointing corrupt judges, treasonous judges, and treasonous officials to all these agencies, then the election was fair and Donald Trump is just a sore loser and you voted for him again even after January 6th. When Donald Trump was convicted of 34 felonies, you didn't have any regrets? Wait, hold on. He said peacefully once in his speech. And also in his speech, he said, if you don't fight, you won't have a country anymore. When you see fraud of this levels, you go by different rules. And he directed them to the Capitol, knowing that many of them were armed and that many of them planned violence because the FBI and his Secret Service briefed them that many of these people wanted to commit acts of violence on January 6th, and they were planning it in group chats on, you know, all these different social media sites. So he knew that these groups wanted to be violent, sent them to the Capitol, and he knew that they were armed. So you can say peacefully once.
At the Capitol was violent. There was one person that was killed.
There were also police officers who died subsequently. People took their own lives after. So I would say that the toll as a result of January 6th was higher because a lot of police officers died as a result or, you know, took their lives later.
So what about the rioting and looting that Democrats take part in? What about that?
Please give me an example of looting and rioting that Democrats take part in and are okay with.
I live in Chicago, 2020.
Yeah.
The rioting, the looting.
Mm-hmm. So
kind of peaceful protest as well. I'm not saying January 6th is valid. I'm not saying it was okay, but it's hypocritical for a Democrat to be speaking about.
No, it's not. Because can you name me a single major Democrat who is okay, like said that, yeah, the looting and the violence is fine?
I'm talking about the Democrats as people, not.
Well, no, those people that were participating in looting and rioting in 2020 were condemned by the Democratic Party en masse, right? The people on January 6th that were invading the Capitol are going to get a pardon from Donald Trump. He called them patriots, people who love the country.
Okay.
Yeah. So the Democrats don't embrace people that do those things. We say that, yeah, if you are looting and rioting and destroying buildings for any cause, you should face legal consequence. Whereas Donald Trump says, well, if you're doing it for me, then I'll give you a pardon and I think you're a patriot. So if you're
peacefully, that's what we said.
If you say peacefully once, that doesn't negate all the other inflammatory language that you've used. It doesn't negate the fact that you brought everybody to DC for January 6th, told people that it will be wild. And it doesn't negate the fact that he directed them to the Capitol, knowing that they're armed, knowing that they wanted to commit violence.
All right. Well, I guess no one's going to get anywhere with January 6th. Everybody has their own opinions. My question for you is, and this is respect. I'm just asking. Mm-hmm. I believe a lot of Democratic sources are invalid, and I'm sure you believe some sources are invalid. So how do we know who's correct?
Who's correct?
Yeah. Which sources are correct? I
mean, I think that there are really some great news agencies out there. Like I think that Reuters, BBC, the Associated Press, I think the New York Times, even though like Trump says they're fake for some reason, all these organizations are really great. I think NBC is great. I think that like CNN, there's a difference between like written and like TV. TV, obviously, I'd say has a more left wing bias for sure. It doesn't mean that they're wrong. Doesn't mean that they're incorrect. But CNN written in terms of what they cover is great. They're also really great on foreign policy. They have like reporters all around the world. So it's fantastic. So I think there's a lot of reliable news agencies out there. But my concern is that people are now increasingly getting their information from social media, which is not inherently bad. But there are a lot of bad actors on social media. So
a lot can be misconstrued over social media. I will give you that.
Yes.
I know there are, like, for example, when I grew up in my household, it was Newsmax. And I know that's very right leaning. So I just don't know where to get full information from, I guess you could say. I grew up with Newsmax, sometimes Fox lately, but like no CNN, none of that was ever.
So what I would do, what I would recommend to you is like diversifying your news. So what I do is I read CNN, but I also read Fox News. I read, news outlets from across the board to get a broad understanding. But it's also important to note that like, on social media, a lot of these like right-wing people that you see on this app or like TikTok or other social media platforms, they have no method of verification. Whereas all these news agencies, like MSNBC, for example, which everybody thinks is super left wing, they have to like double, triple check their sources. They're not just putting out something out there because it's left leaning. They have a rigorous fact checking system in these agencies. So, like the New York Times, I think is great. If you don't want CNN or MSNBC or NBC, that's fine. NPR, somebody in this chat says, Reuters, they're all very good.
Okay, yeah, and I voted for Trump for a number of reasons. Another one being, you know, our health. RFK, I feel like he'll do. Before RFK came out in alliance with Trump, since he was more left wing, were you in support of him before
No.
you weren't?
No, because he's a lunatic on vaccines. He questions the efficacy and the necessity of vaccines. Absolutely not. No.
I mean, I understand vaccines. What about food wise, though? How come a lot of what's in our food here are illegal in other places?
Well, that's also completely exaggerated by people like RFK Jr. So, for example, a lot of RFK Jr. fans, Trump supporters generally, say something like red dye 40 is illegal in Europe. You can't use it in food. It's legal here in the United States, except red dye 40 is just classified under another name in Europe and used in food all the time. So there is certain things that are banned in Europe, but not in the United States. And like, you know, if you want to look at those things, investigate them further, I have no problem with science. I have no problem with studying these things. But the idea that like RFK Jr., a guy who had a literal worm eat his brain, and he placed a bear carcass in Central Park and sawed off the head of a whale and put it in the back of his car and drove it home. And then when he was asked about sexual assault allegations against him, he said, "I'm no church boy." And he's anti-vax, which is like the opposite of being pro-health. If you think that this guy is somehow going to clean up America's health system, and he's not a doctor, has never studied medicine, never worked in medicine, then I think you are crazy.
Okay, I understand. My fiance is also here. Is it okay if he weighs in for a second?
Absolutely.
Oh, hey, Barry. I'm not too much on the political aspect, but I'm more of the health and fitness person. I just want to say, like, you know, I get my protein powders and everything. I get them actually from the UK because there's a lot of more health benefits as opposed to the stuff we would get here. There's a lot of things that I've noticed. They don't put all of what's in protein powders on labels. And this one company I get my protein from, and this ain't a plug, it's just the company I get it from, my protein. It's because they're very cheap, you know. They fully transparent and everything. It's just, my question is, why is it that we're hiding things here, but over there, like, there's full transparency in what's going in. You can research all the stuff that's going in. It's very good for you. It's like who should we trust then to tell us the truth about what we're eating and what we're consuming here?
Protein powder you're using, but it's generally my understanding that that it's required to put all the ingredients on the bottle. But also, alternatively, you can, you know, talk to like a nutritionist if you're interested in, like, you know, if you want to eat like the best things that are
recommended this company. That's why I went.
So you can do things like that, for example. And as I just said to your wife, I believe, I'm not opposed to science. Like, I'm not
I'm all for science.
Sure. So, but then you can't support RFK Jr. if you're for science. But if the idea is like, oh yeah, we want to study these things more and like
for it, and I think that's a great thing. We need more children.
Are you saying that so you can be pro-life for yourself? Are you saying that you just want to outlaw abortion altogether, or are you saying that you personally wouldn't get one?
Well, I personally would never get one, but again, I don't think it should be legal after a certain amount of weeks, except for 3 exceptions.
What about like up until 20 weeks? 20 weeks being viability, meaning that the fetus could exist outside of the mother's womb. Do you think that like 20 weeks would be a good compromise?
No.
You wouldn't be so what kind of point are you putting it on?
I want to say 12.
12? Why 12? Just is it just like a
trimester? Yeah, I was born at 22 weeks. So I mean that's a little close to home
viability?
Yeah.
So I mean, so then you're pro-choice is my understanding. So that you would
form of contraception is 100%. Everybody knows that, or everybody should know that. So you are taking a risk. And there are like 2 million hopeful parents waiting to adopt, and there are many abortions a year. You know, you don't have to keep him or her.
Yeah, but if you're like, what gives you the authority to tell like a woman that, oh, you know the risk, so you should just have to go forward with pregnancy anyway? That's the problem. Like, why can't you have your own view on abortion and like practice that in your life? Nobody's going to stop you doing that. But then why impose that on other women?
Because if you're not ready to have a child, don't take those risks. Why would you?
Come on. Look, this is not a pragmatic.
Still,
it's not a pragmatic approach. We all know that people that are, you know, older teenagers or in college or just young adults generally are going to engage in intercourse. People of all ages are going to engage in intercourse. It's just something that happens, and saying like, well, you know, you shouldn't do it if you're not ready is just not realistic. So what the law should be, in my view, is that if you can do that, obviously you got to be responsible. You should be responsible. But if you have a mistake, no matter what the circumstances are, you should still have access to an abortion. And on your point that, oh, you know the risks, think about anything else you do in life. When you get in a car, you understand that there's a risk that a 18-wheeler might strike you on the highway and kill you or badly injure you. Does that mean that if that happens, you consent to that outcome and that you should accept that it just happened because you knew the risk? No, absolutely not. There should be an ambulance that comes pick you up and heals you, because even though you know the risk, you still did it anyway, and you shouldn't just suffer the risk because something unlikely happened. That's the same thing with an abortion, that you understand the risk, that there is a possibility of this happening, but just because there's a risk doesn't mean you should be forced to have that possible consequence happen to you and go forward with it.
I mean, I understand that, but I mean, at the same time, it's a human life that's currently being made. Like when you're getting in a car and everything, you know how to be safe, and you know how to eliminate some risk factors. But at the end of the day, I just don't think it's okay.
But there are plenty of instances of which you think taking a human life is fine. So in the event of self-defense, if somebody's attacking you or entering your home and you shoot them, I'm sure you're okay with that. If a family wants to pull the plug on their brain dead family member who's in the hospital, I'm sure you're okay with that. That's the taking of a life.
Their life. They already depending on how old they are, they were here. They lived their life. Something unfortunate happened to them.
But it's still life. If your whole premise is that, oh, it's life and life is sacred and should not be taken, then you'd be against both of those circumstances. But you're not. So then why, when it comes to like an abortion, you are?
Because there is a human life that is yet to make its way in the world. They have opportunities. They can grow up to be something great. Like, that's what I'm trying to say.
But I would say that even you recognize that like a fetus outside the womb is different than life inside the womb. Like intuitively you think that. For example, if you have the opportunity to save a conceived egg or a fertilized egg in a petri dish, something that happens with like IVF. If you could save two of those, or a fetus or a baby that's like 2 years old, you can only save one of the both. What would you do?
Between one in a petri dish or...
Two in a petri dish, 2 fertilized eggs in a petri dish versus a 2-year-old baby. If you had there's a house fire, you could only save one. What would you do?
obviously the baby in the house, but I mean,
Right.
that is such an uncommon thing to happen.
Oh, for sure. I totally agree it's uncommon, but it's just a hypothetical. The point is that you see, and I think a lot of people, virtually everybody would agree with this, that a fetus outside the womb, like a baby, is more significant. The value there is more significant than that of a fetus inside the womb. You see that as second to life that's already been outside the womb. That's the point.
I just don't see the correlation in that because one, it's just such a weird example. No offense, but it's like, who will ever have to? Obviously, everyone's going to save what's already born, but at the same time,
But why do you say that? Why do you say something that's already born? Because if by your view they're both life,
they are. Yes.
yeah. If your view they're both life and thus they're equally valuable just because they're life, you wouldn't say, oh, it's obvious because it's the born baby. You wouldn't say that, but you recognize that born life that's already exited the mother versus life inside of the mother's womb is more valuable. And I would totally agree. I don't assign any value to a fetus before 20 weeks. I don't think it's valuable. If you want to have an abortion, I don't care. Personally.
I'm not as crazy as Charlie Kirk or anything like that, but I do have beliefs on it. Like I know he doesn't even believe in the 3 exceptions. I do, but at the same time, if you just, and people are saying, oh, people don't get abortions a lot of the time because they made a mistake. Like, no, that happens a lot.
But then I think I always find I only agree with the 3 exceptions to be peculiar, because then my question is, why does a woman, just be clear, your 3 exceptions are like assault, incest, and life of the mother, right?
Yes.
So then on those first 2, why does a woman have to be violated in order to have access to an abortion?
I'm sorry.
You see,
what?
like, why does a woman have to be violated in order to have access to an abortion? Like, why must she be assaulted or have a family member attack her in order for her to access care that she wants to access? Doesn't that seem like crazy?
I mean, I can see what you're saying with that, but that's something unfortunate that happened to them. Mm-hmm. You shouldn't have to go through a pregnancy with something that caused her so much trauma. I believe with you on that one, but
don't you think that a girl that gets pregnant at like 15 or 16 would have trauma as a result of being forced to go through with a pregnancy when she's still in high school?
If she made that decision, I mean, that was her decision.
But if you're like, yeah, I want to make sure that people don't experience trauma, which I would agree, like you want to limit that, then why would you want to force somebody who's like 15 whose trauma is different than a woman who's been assaulted and got pregnant, 100%, but still trauma nonetheless. She has to get pulled out of school. She can't engage in normal activities. She becomes a mother at 15, has to go through all the processes of pregnancy.
She can give it up for adoption.
Well, you're still a mother no matter what,
but you don't have to, she doesn't have to raise the child. She doesn't have to do any of that. But I mean, again, that just came from her own actions, unfortunately.
But I mean, I won't go back to the example, but like there are plenty of things that happen from your own actions that you don't consent to, right? That you would prefer not to deal with if you have the opportunity to. So I just don't understand that, oh, well, it's her own actions, she should be forced to go through with this if she did it. But I want to take a different approach just briefly. Maternal mortality has been going up in the United States for quite some time, especially after Roe v. Wade. And that's due, since Roe v. Wade was overturned in Texas, maternal mortality has gone up like 56%. And it's one of the states with the most strict abortion laws in the country. So if we see this data going up, if we see more women dying as a result of pregnancy and being denied access to reproductive care, why would you want to go in the opposite direction of outlawing it more as opposed to making it more open for women?
Like I said, that's one of the 3 exceptions. If the mother's life is in danger, it should be fine at any point of the pregnancy.
What about Amber Nicole Thurman in Georgia? Are you familiar with her case?
Was that the one that had sepsis?
Yeah, so basically she had she went to North Carolina to take an abortion pill and have an abortion that's pill induced as opposed to like going into an OBGYN. She came back She came back to Georgia, and she began to feel really ill. And so she went to a local hospital in Atlanta to get a procedure called D&C. which is just like scraping of the uterine lining, because the entire abortion didn't. I don't know how vulgar I can be on TikTok, but essentially it didn't go to plan. There was still matter left in her uterus that needed to be expelled. And the law in Georgia was so vague that the doctors there, they couldn't operate, or they waited to operate around 20 hours because they were unsure if they could perform the procedure, because the procedure in that instance was outlawed over the summer, becoming a felony.
They were worried about their job.
Right. And they had to wait for it to get to a certain point in order for it to be deemed, life saving, right? And Amber Nicole Thurman died as a result. So the point there is that a lot of these Republican states are passing abortion laws that are incredibly vague, and there's no way to make them not vague. There's no way to make a law account for every single circumstance. So there will be women who suffer. There will be women who get sepsis when they don't need to. There will be women who die when they don't need to. So why not, knowing this and seeing cases like Amber Nicole Thurman, why don't we say, hey, let's make the procedure more open and allow women to get abortions if they need to?
And that's what I like.
Let's bring up Nurse Heather.
Sorry. No,
I'm going to bring up a nurse as well to talk about this more in depth, because she is a nurse. But anyway, sorry, continue.
What I'm saying is, like, that's fine to open it more if the woman's life was in danger. Now, let me ask you this. How researched is the pill? I'm not too familiar with the pill that can help abortion or anything. How researched is that?
Well, perfect time to bring up Nurse Heather. So, Nurse Heather, what do you say to her on that?
Can I actually go backwards to the life of the mother thing? So
Sure.
What the issue is like, we know that we need to perform this procedure pretty early on, right? So like if a baby passes incomplete miscarriage, whatever, we know that we need to get all of the tissue inside the uterus evacuated, or within a few days, the mom will be in a life-threatening situation. So our preference is to do that before her life is in danger, because technically it is in danger. She's just not yet actively dying. So the issue is that the laws make it so that she actually has to be like very close to death, very, very, very sick. And her chances of surviving at that point are like exponentially lower than if we intervene when we first know that this needs to happen. So
can I address that when you're through?
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm actually an emergency department nurse. Have been for 40 years, recently retired. And not once before or after the abortion ban, although I haven't worked since the abortion ban, has any doctor, practitioner refused to take care of retained products of conception to the point of, oh, we got to wait until you're dying. I just think that's an inflammatory statement and not true. Tell me one doctor that has ever done that you've ever worked for.
Well, personally, myself, not at all, because I'm Canadian, and here we don't have that issue. But that is why we're having issues with the maternal mortality rates in Texas specifically. That's what happened to Amber Nicole Thurman. Like
And
that.
you've been
That
in
is
Texas?
the reason.
I said, you've been in Texas during that procedure? There is not a doctor I have met in 40 years that would ever do that, no matter what it was on the books about abortion. And to say that is disingenuous.
Well, I think it's a little bit interesting that you would say, like, you haven't worked since the Roe v. Wade is.
Yeah, but I got plenty of friends that still do. I've got 35 doctors that are close friends that perform these procedures all the time in the emergency room as D&Es. And if there's products retained, they don't say, oh, wait a minute, let's wait till Thursday. They don't do that.
Okay, so what about all the cases where they do?
Well, again, those are what have been stated. I'm not sure how accurate they are. It's a story being told 3 times over 4 months by 2 different states. I don't think any 3 of us sitting here know what the truth is.
Have you read the ProPublica report on Amber Nicole Thurman?
No, I have not.
Yeah, so the reporting on that came from the board that was assembled in Georgia to evaluate cases like this. That board has now been disbanded by Governor Brian Kemp because of its findings. But that came
Wonder
directly
why.
from this board that investigated cases like Amber Nicole Thurman's. This is not just like he said, she said, and this doctor claimed this. This was an investigation.
This sounds like malpractice, though.
Yeah, it does sound like malpractice, yes. And trust me, a doctor would be more concerned with malpractice than going to jail over an anti-abortion law.
Really?
No.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry. Really?
No, they would not. No, it's not. So when the laws say that the life of the mother has to be in jeopardy, they have to wait, right? They have to consult with the lawyers and all of that because they don't want to be charged and have their licenses revoked and like go through, even if they know that they made the right choices and did perform the procedures, they could still be charged. And they're not going to do that. They're not going to get charged with medical malpractice because the laws are actually on their side, especially if they're going through the process of consulting ethics boards and the legal teams and all of that to find out if they can do these procedures. Like everybody knows it needs to be done, but you have to, now there's all these hoops that have to be jumped through. And like Amber Nicole Thurman is the only one that's coming to mind, like the name. I know that there's more of them. But I'm curious what you would say are the reasons for the increase in maternal mortality if it isn't this.
Yo-Yo Binks, you're off TikTok Live, so we can't hear you right now. You have to come back to the app if you're still there. There you go. Now we can hear you.
Did you mute me?
No, if you go off the app, we can't hear you, so you have to stay on the app in order for us
I
to
was using a flashlight, my bad.
Oh, it's no problem. Go ahead.
But Gary, when you get a moment, I literally just have 3 topics I'd like to run.
Yeah, I'm happy to talk to you, but I'm no problem. But Nurse Heather just asked you a question. If you want to repeat it, Nurse Heather.
Oh, I think that the maternal rate of complications has never been great in the U.S., and it's never been great for the people who are socioeconomically challenged. And it's something we need to work on. I don't think abortion has significantly increased that in any way, shape, or form, and that's my opinion. And I'm not trying to disagree with you. I'm not trying to prove you right or wrong. I'm just telling you that I have worked with literally hundreds of physicians in New York City, Boston, Florida, Pennsylvania, and there's not one doctor that would ever refuse treatment under those circumstances. So what the individual cases were, I'll claim ignorance. I don't know. I'm just telling you it's a little suspect. And I'd leave it at that.
Yeah, so maternal mortality in the United States as a whole is already fairly terrible. Personally, I blame that on your healthcare system. I think, of all of the developed nations, the US is the only one that hasn't figured out how to have a universal healthcare system. So I think that that's a big problem on its own. But what's happened is since Roe v. Wade overturned in Texas specifically, the maternal mortality rate rose 56% compared to 11% nationally, and now ranks 55th among the developed nations. So that statistic, that 56%, is attributed directly to the abortion bans.
I have no doubt that it is. And the old adage of figures don't lie, but liars do figure. And I think it's a political football that we need a lot of people, both Democrat and Republican, to stop the nonsense, sit down and figure out what is true, what is right, and how to fix it.
Do you think they're lying about the statistics?
No, I think they're biased. There's a difference.
But those come from the CDC. They're not.
I've worked with the CDC. And in fact, just before I retired, I was what I considered myself the Ebola queen out in Nebraska in their contamination site. And I'm telling you, I went against a few CDC options about doffing equipment because healthcare workers got Ebola because they didn't doff properly. That means taking off. And the CDC gave us almost daily updates of here's how you need to take your mask off. And I flatly said, I am not going to teach a colleague how to take a mask off when 10 times out of 10 times the mask flips and potentially exposes them to it. So I'm not 100% behind the CDC. I'm not 100% behind Fauci. I think Fauci made COVID way too political, and it caused a lot more problems than it helped anybody.
What about the WHO?
Again, the WHO, I kind of look at kind of like NATO. I don't think they were helpful during COVID. I think they were covering China and what they did or didn't do. So I'm not a big believer in the HMO doing the right things all the time. I think they have their own political bias. Everybody is biased. Everybody. You know, you're under universal health. I kind of believe in universal health, but the problem I have with it is politicians, doctors, insurance companies, and hospitals shouldn't be the ones that are deciding about health. And that's who's doing it now. And if we really went to universal health and gave as much money to universal health as we did to fighting wars, this country will be a better place. I have no doubt about that.
I'd agree with that.
There you go.
But I think that it's interesting that you would say that the politicians shouldn't have a say in healthcare, and yet.
Well, let me go back to Obama and Romney debate. I watched the Obama-Romney debate. I'm not sure you were alive, Harry, but I
was alive
laughed.
for that.
You were. Well, during that debate, I was absolutely convinced that I didn't trust either one of them to give a nice, comprehensive, universal health. And
So I'm just curious, like, as a healthcare professional, like, what governing body do you trust for information?
well, I absolutely trust doctors. I had a little problem with the split with COVID, being doctors became very political, and doctors became very, it's either this way or the highway, you know. Ivermectin's a worm killer. It is a worm killer, okay? But you know what? Doctors were prescribing it. Nothing wrong with that. The other...
There's everything wrong with that. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I can't
this
think
is
of the
crazy.
malaria drug, but the malaria drug was fine, but it was politicized rather than tried. You know, I give it about 10 years, and it's actually starting now. But there's many, many people who believe the number of people we intubated, we kind of signed their death warrants by intubating them. And I know the reasons why they intubated them. Now, their O2 stats were low, but a lot of times, medical protocol, you learn from your mistakes. And maybe if we had only intubated half of the population, you know, 80% that got intubated died. And the easy answer is, well, they would have died anyways. We don't know that. If we had kept them on CPAP for an extra hour or two, it may have helped. I'm sure you know, once you intubate anybody, especially someone who has comorbidities, it's about the hardest thing in the world to extubate them.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think you and I disagree a lot. I'll admit that at 72, I retired because I started treating residents as my children. And when I started treating attendings as my children, I decided it was time to retire. So I did. They're all still my friends. I see them quite frequently. In fact, I'll be visiting Mass General in February, where I retired from.
I want to take a, why do you think that Fauci was political? You keep saying that Fauci was made political. Don't you think he was made political by Trump?
No, he had nothing.
Really?
Trump had nothing to do with it. In fact, Trump trusted him way too much. Trump didn't seek him out. He was the head of it. He hadn't touched a patient in 40 years. And he lost all credibility with me when he wore 2 masks.
He's one of the most cited virologists in world history. I think he's in top 5. So this is somebody who knows his stuff. And just to be clear, Trump was the one at campaign rallies leading up to the 2020 election saying Fauci this, Fauci that.
Yeah.
How can you possibly claim that it was
He was
anybody
wrong.
else's doing except for Trump's for Fauci becoming political?
Fauci became a movie star, not a movie star, a TV star. He cared more about celebrity. Okay.
What?
He said
Wait.
He
Just
thought that China lab, a lab in Wuhan, China, who's playing with the COVID virus, couldn't possibly be where it came. It came from bats. That was the first thing, red flag, that went up in my mind. Okay, he became a big celebrity, and he enjoyed it.
wait. No, just think about what you're saying right now.
There
You're
isn't what I
saying that
said.
the top virologist in the United States, America's top doctor,
No,
going on shows to explain to the people, what's going on, the recent updates about COVID is a bad thing, that was him becoming a movie star. No. That was just him in the middle of a pandemic, a once-in-a-lifetime pandemic, speaking to the people as America's top doctor. I don't know how you could possibly take objection to Dr. Fauci going into the media and speaking to the people.
I'm not taking objection going into the media. I'm taking objections to the things that he did that I don't think was in the best interest of the people. New York City was a great example. Everyone yells at Biden. Biden gave New York City a ship, a Javits Center, and 300,000 extra beds. And it wasn't needed. He gave them 18,000 vents. And they never used them. And instead, the mayor sent them back to nursing homes, which caused a lot of deaths. I'm not a vaccine denier. I was probably one of the 100 people that got their first Pfizer vaccine in Florida in January 6th of 2021. And I never got another one. And the reason why is 48 hours later, I had a left pontine stroke and couldn't walk for a year.
I don't think that was because of your COVID vaccine.
I'm sorry. I just have
Well,
to.
we
kind
had
of
the
point this
discussion with the
out.
neurologist
I
in primary care. And
Hold
they
on,
kind of
let Nurse
agreed.
Heather speak. Let Nurse
Go
Heather
ahead.
speak. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I mean this with all due kindness. You sound a little bit like a conspiracy theorist.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
No conspiracies.
It sounds like you're diving into them pretty heavy.
What did I say about intubating and 80% dying? And maybe we should. Where's the conspiracy? There's no conspiracy. I suppose you probably love Sanjay Gupta. Now, I don't know Sanjay Gupta personally, but I know him. I've met him, and he's a doctor who goes on TV and talks a lot. And I will tell you, at least in America, most of the practicing providers don't really think the people that are on TV are the smartest people in the world, including Dr. Oz. I like that. So I can conspiracy theory when I don't like Dr. Oz. But I love this conversation about health. But Harry, it's getting late and I'm an old man. And I really, really just have 4 little things.
Okay, I'm happy to do that. But Nurse Heather, do you have anything else to say to him regarding any of the topics, or?
No, I mean I'll agree that a lot of the doctors on TV, like Dr. Oz, Dr. Phil, like all those, I don't.
Yeah, those guys definitely. Yeah.
They're a
Before
little.
you go, what part of Canada are you from?
Huh?
I said, before you go, what part of Canada are you
Oh,
from?
she's not leaving. She'll stay for the conversation.
I love Canada.
Yeah. I'm from Vancouver Island.
Oh, I did my 50th and 60th birthday in Montreal. My wife went to McGill.
Roots to Canada. All right. So, what would you those topics you wanted to talk about? What would you have in mind?
Well, they're not necessarily in the same order. And what I'd like to do is just give the topics, and then I'll be quiet, and you can talk as long as you want.
Okay.
Fair enough?
Sorry, can I just say my one last point really fast?
Yes, you can, and absolutely, and I promise we'll get to you.
My question, just like Amber Thurman is her name, correct?
Amber Thurman. Yeah.
Okay, my question is, so I understand, what happened to her was very unfortunate, very sad. And that was one example. And I know, a lot of Democrats are for the borders being open. So should we use Lake and Riley as one example? Like, because you guys don't believe all the borders being open is causing any of that. They're both just one examples.
I agree with you. It's anecdotal.
go
But
into
you're
that,
against
please?
deportation as well, though.
No. Other, right? There's like politics is a lot of gray area, and I don't think there's anything in life that's just, oh, you either go all the way or you don't. I'm for deportation when it comes to like bad people, right? If you're committing crimes, you're doing things like that, no problem, get out. No problem. And even like there's an argument to be made that if you're at the border, you come here illegally, you get caught, you can get deported. But when it comes to mass deportation, that's an entirely different thing. That's, people who've been in the United States their entire lives, they're working jobs, they have kids here, they might have like a mixed immigration status family, meaning that they have American kids, but they themselves are undocumented. I don't think we should deport people like that. I don't think we should be deporting people who are giving back to their community. But yeah, if you're a criminal, like I have no problem deporting you. So it's not one or the other. I don't know why that would be viewed as hypocritical.
Well, it was just one extreme example to another. But
so I know like you're going there from the Amber Nicole Thurman thing. I just want to point out that like she's the one that is talked about a lot, but you can actually find lists of women, right? So people use her name, but I mean, do you want other ones?
I'm sorry, what?
Jocelyn Barnica, Yennefer Alvarez Estrada Glick, Portia Nyamezi, Nevaeh Crane, Amber Nicole Thurman, Candy Miller. Like, I can continue, right? These are all women who passed away because of the abortion bans.
Yes, and that's unfortunate. I don't agree with that. Like I said, if the mother's life is in danger, then that's fine. And I agree and I understand.
So
I can answer that if you'd like a little bit.
How safe is the abortion pill? That's what I thought you were going to answer when you first came on here.
the abortion pill?
Yes.
So it's 2 medications, and it's usually pretty safe and effective. Yeah.
It's Plan B, correct?
Usually. How long has it been around, though? How many tests are on it? How much research has been done?
Oh, it's been around forever.
Okay.
Both of them. I mean, the one pill, the one medication we use for lots of different things.
Is that mifepristone?
Yeah. No, the mifepristone is the more abortion pill, and the misoprostol is the one that we use all the time.
Gotcha.
And I'm sorry, but also if somebody makes a mistake, and why not just get a plan B? Why? And if it fails, I know that can happen, but it's not common.
No, that is a plan B. You can get them over the counter. I don't know if you can there, but you can here.
I just said that.
Abortion pills?
Yeah, so the plan B is...
I know what
they're a
plan
little
B
bit
is.
different. So a plan B will basically like force you to have your period like tomorrow.
I've had plan B and I've never had my period the next day. I'm sorry. That's to prevent pregnancy.
Yeah, the idea is it forces your body to shed your uterine lining so that a pregnancy can't implant.
That has never happened to me, but okay.
That's essentially.
That's the point of it.
But can I mention the other 10 people you met? And again, so sorry that those women had to put up with that, but I would never, ever, ever make a decision until the medical record and the whole process that took place from the time the woman knew she was pregnant, from the time that there was an alleged delayed response, and what ultimately happened. And that's all I'd say about that.
Okay. All right. So anybody final comments on any of this stuff?
I'm still dying for my 4 topics.
That's what I know. I'm trying to...
Thank you for your medical input.
Thank you. Thank you.
Seems sarcastic. Jeez Louise.
It's pretty productive. I kind of liked it.
Okay. So anyway, your 4 topics that you
And
you
again,
wanted to
this
get
is
to.
in no particular order.
Uh-huh.
But just coincidentally today, I happened to see your interview pre-Biden dropping out with Pierce Morgan.
Yep.
And then I saw a little bit of the post-election, but it didn't really show a lot with Tyrus and with you. And the only
That was pre-election.
that was also pre-election.
Yeah, so if Tyrus was there, then that was pre-election.
Okay, all right. My only concern about you is you telling me that Biden could be president today. And I just think that goes to your credibility, because I'd venture to guess you're in the minority there. And that's all I'll say about that. And you can answer it later if you'd like.
Maybe I don't know. I think that in my personal view, I have no problem with Biden being president. For a couple of reasons. Number one, he had a neurology report released this year in 2024. It's on whitehouse.gov for everybody to read. They found no evidence. These are doctors from Walter Reed. You know, these are folks who have dedicated their lives to serving veterans, service members, whatnot. These are good folks. They're experts, and experts in neurology conducted this exam. They found no evidence of anything wrong with him. And Republicans also have praised President Biden's mental ability. Kevin McCarthy has. Ted Cruz said that Joe Biden got Republicans to roll over during debt ceiling negotiations. I don't know how somebody who is not capable of doing day-to-day function would be able to do that. I think that speaks to how Republicans have made this more of like a publicity issue as opposed to like an actual issue. And then third, I think this is my only point where I'm biased. I've met Joe Biden. So I've actually interviewed Joe Biden. I stood in front of him. I spoke to him on camera, off camera. He was great. I had no concern there. There was not a moment where I was like, oh, he's lost a step. I thought he was great. So that's
the only thing I would say is I think you're in the minority there, but that's all right. And my only other question, and it has to do with the elections in 16, 20, and 24.
Yeah.
I absolutely believe that Joe Biden got 81 million votes. And I also took great pains in explaining to people, I don't think another president will ever get 81 million votes. And I think the reason was, going back to my conspiracy way of thinking, people hated Trump. Both Republicans and Democrats hated Trump. And if you don't think that they used COVID to get rid of Trump, and all of the candidates, Democratic candidates, bowing out 24 hours before Tuesday because they really figured out that the only way to beat Trump was to put up another old white guy. And they were successful. I give them credit for that. But what I'm more concerned about, you a few other buddies, that if you didn't win this election in 2024, I, myself personally, would do my damnedest to say, gee, what did I do wrong? How can I do it better? Is what we said, abortion is a hot topic, never going to go away. But it was clear that wasn't a one issue vote, because many, many women, if all the women voted strictly on abortion, I think Kamala would have won. And I absolutely believe that. And in this time, I'm just curious, and I'm not curious. I know it didn't happen because the mail-in ballots were not a factor in this. And I think that everything that went on with you, Dean, Parker, so a few other people, I don't even know their names, I really think that you helped Biden get elected. You helped Trump get elected. And I really think that if you're serious about all of this, and the last thing I'm going to say, and I promise you I'll sit and listen till you stop, is I have been very confused as to how you at 22, him at 18, him at 24, became so well-versed in almost everything. And I think you're bright people. I'm not doubting your intelligence. But I think I've decided, and I'm sure you'll disagree, I think you three guys are pretty good actors, and you're able to learn a script.
Wow. So I think
you've learned the script quite well. You spoke. I can't tell half the time who I'm talking to, because you talk and the 34 things, and he graped and he did all that. One, I think Trump was absolutely, positively, politically hammered
Oh my.
throughout the whole thing. Not shaking my head, hammered. You get 91, and Colorado trying to take him off the ballot under the 14th Amendment. He was never charged with insurrection to begin
Doesn't
with.
have to be. Doesn't have to be. Don't have to be.
No, according
You
to
don't have to be charged with.
You
You don't have to be charged. No, the Supreme Court even said you didn't have to be charged with insurrection to be taken off the ballot. So first of all, I think it's safe to say, thank you, Henderson, for the baby dragon. I think it's safe to say that Nurse Heather has been vindicated. When she said that you are a little bit of a conspiracy theorist, I think she's been 100% vindicated. And I think she'd probably agree. No,
I
Nurse
would be
Heather?
lying if I said that I didn't think the exact same thing.
I think you've been vindicated entirely. So listen, wow. I don't even know where to start with all this. Hopefully, please, when I finish, make sure I've addressed every single one of your points. But I want to go all the way back to, you think that I and Parker and Dean helped get Trump elected. I would obviously disagree. I think that Parker, Dean, and I and Chris and all these different folks have did our best to spread information to people, to debunk misinformation about the election, to do our part in trying to have these conversations in front of a lot of people. And I don't think that, in my view, I've seen no reason to think that, that contributed to Trump getting elected. I think it's the opposite. But that's just my personal view. Obviously, I'm biased because I'm me. I have no evidence, and you have no evidence to back up either of our claims. So we just have to leave it at moose.
Other than he won and you guys lost. And
but then if that's the argument, then every single conservative commentator, every single Republican in Congress, every single Republican across the country helped Biden get elected in 2020. If that's the claim that all these people who are advocating on behalf of a candidate, their candidate lost and the other candidate won, they must have helped that other candidate get elected. I think that's just bad logic. No.
I don't. I disagree with that premise. I think that at some point you thought that everything you would say would sway people's vote. And it's pretty apparent that, I don't care, you call it a landslide, not a landslide, Electoral College wins, not popular vote. But he finally gets the Electoral College, really nails the Electoral College, and now everyone's talking, he only got 49.8% of the vote. The popular vote has nothing to do with the presidential election. Nothing. So it was a pretty significant win. And I had said,
it wasn't.
You don't think the Electoral College was a pretty significant win?
No, I don't think anything about this election was significant. I think that Trump won the election by 200,000 votes in 3 states.
It's not, okay. And Biden won the same thing. And I kept saying that he was going to beat Harris in the swing states because I don't think she concentrated enough on the swing states.
I don't know. I mean, I think we're still getting all this data in about the election, but overall, I think the claim that me, Parker, and Dean, and Chris all helped Trump get elected, I think that's just absurd. I think it's a kind of a crazy conclusion to draw.
Harris elected. It didn't help that. I think,
but I disagree. Who's to say that me, Parker, Dean, and Chris didn't help Harris get more votes? That hypothetically speak, and I don't know. I have no way of knowing this. There's literally no way to know this.
Let me answer that.
Who's to say that there wasn't more votes as a result?
If anything, I think this election was as heated, and people who hated Trump would vote for anybody but Trump. I really would have been put in my place had Harris got 81 million votes. I don't think Democrats stayed away. Oh God, I hate to do this. So you're keeping me up. Do you know that 43% of Republicans that vote Republican, and 43% of Democrats that vote for the Democrat? And I know you'd never believe this, but if the day before the election, Harris said, I'm now a Republican, and Trump said, I'm now a Democrat, they'd still get the 43% votes. And this election, it is the 14% of the independents that swung this. It's not people.
I totally agree that independents swung the election. I'm there.
So we don't disagree that much.
No, we do disagree. No. Don't get it twisted. We disagree a lot. When it comes to data analysis of the election, you're right in saying that independents swung the election, no doubt. But I just want to circle back to the claim that Chris, Dean, and Parker and I had a role in swinging the independents toward Trump, I think is absurd. I don't think that makes any sense. But I want to get to everything you said. I might be forgetting things you said. So please, again, when I'm done, please tell me if I messed something and you want me to address it. But the claim, so you asked, like, how did we all inform ourselves? And you think we're like actors in scripts. There's no acting. There's no scripts. I've been in politics. I started in politics at a local level when I was in high school. I was around 16-ish, 17-ish years old. I started on a local level. I worked for my state senator, my local councilwoman in my town. I started very local. I was part of like my state senator's youth group, discussing issues that affect like our local community. Then all of that got shut down because of COVID. It was kind of around that era. And so I moved, and then I was in my basement, just like everybody else was with COVID. And I saw people talking about politics because of the upcoming election in 2020 on TikTok. And so then I started making videos online. And that's literally how it started. There was no like, oh, I did this or that or whatever. Point is that Parker, Dean, Chris, and I have always been involved in politics. And before our time on TikTok, we were working in politics, or at least interested in politics to the point that we were reading all day, every day about it. My knowledge on politics started well before I was on TikTok. I was reading about politics. I was reading political books. I was staying up with the news every single day. I still, to this day, read those same news sources every single day. So you're asking, like, how are you informed? How do you know this stuff? It's just a lot of reading, and a lot of years have been spent for all of us into this.
You forget that I grew up in Massachusetts. My mother was not close friends with Jack Kennedy, but close friends to one of Jack's closest friends. She was involved in his run for the Congress, involved in his run for the Senate, involved in it. So I've always been in touch myself. But I really look at these last few years as when Trump got elected, and I think I told you this before, I am absolutely positively, here's my conspiracy theory again, and it's not conspiracy, Trump's transition team was investigated. Now, if that's not
for what?
Messing with the peaceful transition of power, for what? Because
wait. The Trump transition team right now is not being investigated.
No, that's right. They're not now. They were in 2016.
The Trump transition team in 2016 was not being investigated in its entirety. There were individual people who were part of a broader investigation into Russia's interference in the 2016 election. And by the way, some of those people were later convicted for their roles in this investigation, whether it be lying to FBI agents, obstruction of justice, refusing to testify, whatever it might be. But those investigations uncovered a lot. I'm
not sure, again, if you heard me say this, but I've been a lawyer for 40 or 32 years as well. And I do kind of understand the whole system. And one of my best advice that I give people, whether it's criminal, whether it's civil, whether it's divorce, is the more you can stay out of court, the better it is. The more you can resolve it, the better it is. Because once a DA, if it's criminal, gets a hold of you, did you ever hear the term a DA can indict a carrot? So it's not as simple. It's very clouded about how things get to court, who decides to prosecute, when they decide to prosecute.
Listen, you know what? Listen, I know you're about to go to bed, and I have to wrap up the live
12.
soon anyway.
Almost 12.
I know you have to get to bed soon.
One more topic when you're through talking.
No. I know. What I was going to say is I know you have to go to bed soon, and I'm going to wrap up the live as well. But I'm going to invite a lawyer up here to come talk to you just about it as fun as well, because good have professionals. So if Law of the Wild's here and wants to come up, you're welcome to do that.
Can I give you a great example of me debating a lawyer? And again, I don't know if it was with you, it might have been with the other two or three, but the biggest argument we had was talking about Marbury versus Madison. And he was right about what the case was about. The outgoing president appointed someone and then he lost, and were they going to force the new incoming administration to take him and so forth? That was the whole case. However, the whole case is read in constitutional law because that's the one case that gave the Supreme Judicial Court the right and the go-ahead that, yes, we're the final arbiter. And this lawyer just, oh, no, you're wrong, and to the point that they, hung up on me, And this is what I mean about, I love sitting here talking with you. This has been a very productive conversation. But I can't be 100% right, but I also can't be 100% wrong. And I think even talking about pregnancy and abortions, I at least gave you some credibility about what I do know. And my last thing, and it's hopping and pivoting, another favorite word to use, is if Trump had stayed elected and got his second term, I have no doubt we would have got out of Afghanistan in a much more orderly fashion than Joe. Much more orderly fashion.
So,
He
first
picked
of
the
all,
wrong. I don't think there would have been 150 people on a C-17 falling off and dying. I really don't. You do? That's okay.
oh man,
That's on film. You didn't see that?
so
I'm also a Vietnam vet, so I know about the helicopters in Saigon and the helicopters.
yeah.
Is there
So-
anything you haven't done?
Not much. Well, I'm 73 years old, so
I'm sorry. I'm just like
Keeps
the
me
more
off the
things you add,
streets.
the lower your credibility goes in my mind.
is that right? That's too bad.
Yeah.
The only lottery I won was the second to the last lottery. And instead of joining the Army or getting drafted, I joined the Air Force. Sat my ass in Vietnam and Da Nang and Thailand and came home and went under the GI Bill, became a nurse. 30 years later, 25 years later, I became an attorney. And now I'm retired, living in Marco Island and loving it. And I'm very happy Trump's our president.
and it's just
See
it's
what
such a
happens in 4 years.
it's such a shame you become so conspiratorial.
Yeah, there's no conspiracy there. I don't have
Well,
any-
there is conspiracy because
No.
again, first of all, you're saying like, oh, your credibility. I think you've gained
Where's the
credibility.
conspiracy?
The fact that like Christine Parker and I are
I'm giving
actors,
you-
and also you said that like Trump's
I'm giving-
transition team was investigated and that he was politically targeted. And that-
I did write down, and I didn't say it. I've come to the conclusion either you're very, very naive.
you said I was well educated a moment ago.
You are. You are. Well, I gave the a choice of naive being one of them, which I've scratched off. And besides that,
But if you're like putting aside the medical
acting.
debate we had earlier involving
you
Nurse
really?
Heather, because I think you're wrong on a lot of that stuff, and
what's up? What's up? Let's talk about it. What's
I know,
up?
I'm happy to rehash it, but just let me make my point. I think you're wrong on a lot of that stuff. I think Nurse Heather was right about that stuff. But how can you, as an attorney, number one, and then your conspiracy about like all of us being actors, but then how can you, as attorney, turn around and say, oh yeah, Trump was politically targeted in these cases? Like, oh, it's 91 felonies. How can somebody get so many how can somebody get so many felony charges in 4 cases? That's absurd. You're an attorney, like you can review these indictments and see that, oh yeah, you know what?
No.
God damn, the evidence against Donald Trump is just really strong. Maybe that's why.
And I almost wish that he didn't get elected, so they could have all gone to the Supreme Court and been discharged.
Why? Why would they be
They
dismissed
would
of the
have. I
Supreme
don't have
Court?
the time to go over each little thing, but I'm telling you,
Pick a case.
The Georgia
Pick a
case. The Georgia case would have been thrown out. Okay,
Why?
the
Well, actually, don't let me ask you why. Law of the Wild, please, if you would like. It's up to you.
No,
Through what mechanism would the Georgia case have gone to the Supreme Court?
Oh, because it was a state case?
Right.
Would have been dismissed by the appellate court, excuse me.
Which
Yeah, Attorney General in New York runs on, I'm going to get Trump. The world went batshit crazy when he won, Republicans and Democrats. And they spent 4 years doing everything and anything to convict him. And yes, they, for many people that, well, you're going to go to jail for 3 years. You better speak up and talk about Trump. Well, a lot of people went to jail and said, no, I'm not going to do that. That's not conspiracy. That's what happened. And even now, there was an all-out effort. The border. I love immigrants. I have no problem with immigrants. I've got 40,000 immigrants. That's a little exaggeration. 45 redoing my condo under the new bill because of the condo that fell down in Fort Lauderdale, and now it's costing us $30,000 in extra assessment. So I don't have any problem with that. But if you think for the 3 years that Biden and Harris did in so many ways on TV by themselves, don't ask me for a source, I saw it come from their lips. Come on in, we want you in here, come. And they didn't enforce the laws, And I think a lot of bad people have come across the border. And I think the very first cut should be to look at that, identify it, and fix it. No, I don't think we should rip apart families. I don't think that, again, all politicians say silly things and no one's lying. You know, Harris didn't lie. She was just political. She didn't have any policies. Those are all positions that she'd have to convince.
Hey, Harry, grab a sundowning here. Did you bring me up for a reason?
Oh, that hurt. That hurt.
Sorry.
That really hurt.
So, maybe we'll wrap it up
I
here.
think you know what sundowning is, but that's all right.
Very
Harry-
familiar. Hey,
go ahead.
Yo, remind
I'm
me,
listening.
in what class in law school did we learn about the Rule and Shelley's case?
Excuse me, I'd have to research that up. I don't pretend to know every case. Please explain it to me. Maybe I'll remember it and be able to comment on it.
The Rule and Shelley's case, it's like a 1L case that you learn at the beginning of one particular class.
Okay. Contracts,
It'd be
constitutional laws,
property law. Yeah, property law.
courts, property. Okay. So again, please explain it to me. I'll tell you whether I know it or not.
I've got another question. In what class did we learn about the statute of frauds?
You think you got me there? One good thing that an attorney knows, especially when clients come in and ask questions about that, say, you know what? I really don't know, but I'm going to take the time to research it. And that's what most good attorneys do. I don't sit here and be able to spit back everything about 7 different areas of law. If you specialize in some, you might get to know more. You might get to spoke Mass General Law 93A, Mass General Law 208A. Doesn't mean you're smart, doesn't mean you know about it. But if someone comes with you with a legal question, your obligation to your client is to find out about it. So
Yeah,
if you
so to the chat, I'll leave it to you guys to guess, but I would imagine 99.9% of attorneys that you ask those two questions to would be able to tell you the Rule in Shelley's case is property law, and the statute of frauds applies to contract law.
about the written, it has to be in writing in order for be a defense. That's what property law.
Not even close.
You're not.
All right, we'll leave it there. All right, Yo-Yo, thanks for coming up, man. We'll have a conversation another day, all right?
And I do think you helped. I don't think you helped Kamala. Is that better? I really don't. I think if you spend more time figuring out how you could be successful, it might help you. Not that I ever want, who knows? I think that if this goes on, I'm convinced JD and Tulsi may have a chance.
Oh, God. Okay, goodbye. Have a good one, all right?
Tulsi.
Tulsi Gabbard having a chance to the presidency? Now that's delusional. Anyway, Nurse Heather Law, thanks for coming up for that.
Thanks for the midnight snack, Harry. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. man.
That
Have a good
was
one.
entertaining. Thank you for that. Yeah.
Yeah, no problem. I appreciate it.
Have a good night.
Have a good one. Wow. Jeez Louise. Yo, Valerie, thanks for the $1. I appreciate you. What is he yapping about? I don't know. Bex, thanks for the $5. I'm starting an unhealthy addiction to sending you money. Today wasn't too bad. Yo-Yo was annoying though. Please save your money. Save your money. Enjoy yourself. Enjoy your money. Keep it for yourself. I promise. Aaron, thanks for the $1. You are the only creator on TikTok who deserves my last dollar until payday. Love your passion and dedication to the fight. Aaron, I appreciate you so much. That's incredibly kind. Wow, that's just incredibly kind. I appreciate you. Jake, he was a lawyer for the Green M&M. Megan, thanks for the $5. On a real note, your lives helped educate me, and I was able to use what I learned to talk to my more moderate friends. I appreciate what you guys do. Thank you, Megan. Well, I'm glad it helped. Seriously. And then Megan again, thanks for the $5. And Megan again, thanks for the $5. I appreciate you. Reese, thanks for the one saying, let me talk to this guy and Jenna. She seems fixable. I apologize for just seeing that now. Cassie, thanks for the $5. Yo-Yo said sexist things on Parker's Live the other week. I wish I'd have seen that as well. Lisa, thanks for the $25. I appreciate you. They forget that mental/emotional and financial distress caused by an unwanted pregnancy is also life-threatening. It's not just physical. Abortion can be life-saving in all situations. That's also a very, very good point. It's a very good point. Megan, thanks for the $5 again. And Amanda, thanks for the $1. Could you also inform her that 400,000 children are in foster care right now, so give it up for adoption is insane. Well, that too. It's also a very good point. Lydia, thanks for the $15. I don't understand when people value the life of a fetus unless the woman was assaulted, then it's no longer valuable. That's also Another good point. Back to back good points. Tammy, thanks for the $1. Excuse me. We freeze zygotes to preserve them. We can't do that to a baby. That's why they are not the same. I don't even know what that's in connection to be honest. I don't even know. I can't even remember what that's in connection to. I've been so deep in that conversation, man. Jessica, thanks for the $5. My story would stop her in her tracks. I was raped and found it 6 months later. I was pregnant. I went through hell, and abortion was never an option for me, even in a blue city. Again, Jessica, I wish I would have seen that as well. I thank you for sharing that with me. That would have been good to tell that. Jenna, I think her name was Jenna. I think. Thanks, Jessica. Lindsay, thanks for the $20. Why can't they just admit it's about control and punishing women for their sinful behavior? That too. Kenichi, thanks for the $5. MAGA really believes Trump is going to get insurance companies to cover IVF when they don't even want to cover anesthesia. Well, yeah, exactly. Blue Cross Blue Shield is like, yeah, you know, if you're under surgery for too long, we're not going to cover it. And they think that they're going to cover IVF. Give me a break. Megan, thanks for the $5 as well. Kylie, thanks for the $2. I'm 28 and decided to go to law school because of how crazy the world is. That is amazing right now. I hope you're doing well in finals. God. Ruby. Oh my God, Ruby. I'm so sorry. I'm just seeing this. $100. $100 from Ruby. I appreciate that so much. Saying amazing news resource. Throw some W's in the chat for Ruby for $100, at least at a minimum. I see some of these comments in the chat. Those are funny. Throw some W's in the chat for Ruby, at least 100. I hope she's still here. If she is, please make yourself known. But I appreciate it so much. That's incredibly kind. I appreciate you. You are fantastic. You are fantastic. Wow, Ruby. Shout out Ruby. I mean, seriously, W's in the chat. Brianna, thanks for the $5. I've learned so much watching your lives and really appreciate what you're doing for this country with Riz. I appreciate you, Brianna. Thank you for watching the lives. I appreciate you a lot. Catherine, thanks for the $3. Democrat from Argentina, where our president might be even worse than Trump. Milei, my God. I made a video about that guy recently. He's terrible. Allie, thanks for the $5. Wish you could show us your kitty tonight, but it's okay. I can always just show you mine. I don't have a pen. Allie, I appreciate the $5. That's JW, thanks for the $5. Why do white people think they speak down on immigration? Let's not forget about that they were immigrants too. White people just stole the land. I mean, all these, white folk came from Ireland, Poland, and European countries not that long ago. So Russell, thanks for the $2 for completely owning that guy. I appreciate you. Gabby, thanks for the $3. You inspired me to continue my education. I'm on track for getting my associates in physics. Sorry, I can't even fucking read right now. In psych and liberal studies. I don't know why I read physics as psych is physics, but anyway, I am also set on getting my bachelor's in psych with a minor in law and society. That's amazing. Gabby, you're doing so well. I hope you're killing it. Samantha, thanks for the $1. Oh, that's all the way back then. And now, hold on. Kendall, thanks for the $5. And Amy, thanks for the $3. Is Trump trying to get rid of Medicare and Medicaid? He wants to. He's tried to defund it every single year of his presidency when he was president the first time. And hold on, just a couple more came in. Almost done, I promise. Michael, thanks for the $1 to all the Swifties. Happy last day of the Eras Tour. That is, I think that's a big moment for a lot of people. Jen, thanks for the $5 as well. Last one. I'm a midwife in community health, and I just want to say thanks for bringing issues around abortion to light. I'd love to be called up sometime to talk about topics related to pregnancy abortion under the abortion ban. Yes, Jen, I think you've been here before, Jen. You brought that to my attention. Yeah, absolutely. We should do that. There's so many amazing people I want to bring up to talk about this stuff. But we should get more people up who could speak on a lot of this stuff. Anyway, listen, ladies and gents, boys and girls, everybody in between, I'm going to wrap up the live there. I appreciate you guys being here. Thank you so much. There's other people live. There's other people live right now that I would recommend you raid and watch. Amanda Rose is live. Isaiah Martin is live. They're both doing debates right now. Isaiah R. Martin is a buddy of mine, Isaiah R. Martin. So I would definitely go raid him and say hi. And of course, Amanda Rose is live as well. But let them know, whoever you go to, let them know Harry Raid, Harry Raid, Harry Raid, Harry Raid. Spam the chat with Harry Raid. Let them know that we sent you and that we appreciate you. Sorry for the slightly shorter live, but unfortunately today is leg day. So it takes a very long time. It takes like an hour and 15 to get through. So I have to go do that so I don't get too tired before I have to go to bed. It's the worst day. It's literally the worst day in my view. So anyway, I'm going to go do that. Raid both of these people, Amanda Rose, Isaiah R. Martin. They're both live. Go say hi, let them know that we sent you. But before you do that, as we talked about, there might be a TikTok ban. So I'm on every single social media platform. I'm on Twitter, YouTube, Snapchat, Instagram, Blue Sky, Facebook, all that stuff. All those links are in my bio. If TikTok does get banned on January 19th, YouTube will be my primary platform. So if you want to go subscribe there, if you have a YouTube channel and are interested in political YouTube videos, there you go. I posted one today. But aside from all that, have a great rest of your night. Enjoy your day tomorrow. It's a Monday, so it's the start of the week. But Mondays are good days. Mondays are good days. Set the tone for the rest of the week. Have a great day tomorrow. And even if your day doesn't go to plan, that's okay. You get up tomorrow, you do the next day, I should say. You get up and do it again, and then you get up the next day and do it again. And keep pushing forward and keep persevering and keep being amazing and keep doing all the amazing things that you do on a day-to-day basis. Now I will leave you. I apologize. We'll be back soon. All right. Have a great day, everyone. We'll talk soon. And yeah. All right, everybody.